are you on Zoom or on the phone? Let's start with Paul Tillman. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here and I'm on the computer.
Okay. Is Kelly O'Brien? I heard you before. You're at home on Zoom.
Yes.
Okay, good. Mike Todd, are you logged in? Are you somewhere online? Not yet for Mike. Anything from the phone, Mike Todd?
There doesn't seem to be any connection with Mike. He's not in the room and I don't see him anywhere on the screen.
Okay, so we do have a quorum, so for the minutes, is that DeForest, was that you?
It is, yes.
Okay, good. We do have a quorum of 3, so, why don't we, I know there's some confusion going on here, but we'll try to work our way through it. So, without objection, I mean, I don't have any way of doing it. Can we just, at least for this particular meeting, skip the Pledge of Allegiance unless someone says, can we still do it? I mean, I know that there's a lot of people online, or I don't have a camera, so I can't see anything. Is that okay? Or would you rather just continue to do it? We can say it out loud. It doesn't bother me.
We skipped the pledge this time.
Yeah, I'll second.
Without objection, I will just allow that. So let's go to, are there any comments from the board on topics not on the agenda? And I'll start with you, Paul. Do you have anything?
No, sir.
Kelly, do you have anything?
No, sir.
Okay, and I'm just going to keep checking to see if Mike Todd logs in, or maybe he'll walk in the meeting, and that would be great. And at that time, I would ask, are you with us, Mike Todd, yet, or no? Do you have any comments, or not there yet? Okay, I don't hear anything. My comment, for the record, will be that we do have a little confusion. Brandon emailed us today, and he's online. He was around. Apparently around someone that had tested positive for COVID-19, is not sure that he has anything to do with that. He went and got tested today, and the results are pending. He and I had a conversation this morning, and I said that we just needed to follow the rules and that he couldn't come into the office until he had a negative test, and so that's where it's at right now. So, and it's not a bad thing to have us try to navigate our way through these Zoom and phone call meetings either. Given that status, I talked with him this morning, and we'll just have some brief discussions on the topics on the agenda. Money, which we'll take up here in a minute. But Brandon, do you have any comment on topics not? Okay. Are there any citizens at the meeting, either online or in person, that has a comment on a topic that's not on the agenda?
So Dave, there was
Okay.
somebody that wrote into the select board,
Okay.
and I spoke to Chief Daniels, and he said it's the corpse. What was it? Army Corp. Yeah. It's their the road that they're talking about that people are speeding on, and that they want like a 3-way stop sign.
Okay, just that one letter. Okay, let's review the minutes of September 20th, 2021. I'd like a motion to pass the minutes, please. Either from Paul or Kelly.
I have a change.
Gail,
To change what?
On your first item about the general fund surplus to the park. It's off by just $270. I don't know if it's a typo in the minutes or if it's somebody got the number wrong. $6.72, and it should be 6966.72. So it needs an additional $270.
Okay, so who just made that comment?
that was Gail, the town accountant.
Okay, good. Okay, so she's asking for a minute. Yeah, okay, good. So she's asking, DeVoris, you probably got that down. She's asking for a correction of the amount which is in our packet. So I think the way she should handle that is by a separate motion. So I want to take that up separately because it's dealing with money. Okay, there's a motion on the floor to accept the minutes on September 20th, but the minutes need to be corrected. So why don't we do it this way? Why don't we amend the minute? Well, we can't do it that way. We need to transfer the money, the additional money. Brandon, do you have a suggestion?
You don't think to transfer, or is it just put in wrong?
I don't know.
Well, I wonder, Dave, if the actual motion is incorrect. It could also amend the original motion. I don't think you can do that.
No, you can't.
I don't think so. Is that Mike?
Yes.
Okay, good. I didn't think so either, so I think what we should be doing perhaps is just to make a separate motion that transfers the $270 difference to the general fund from the Parks and Rec too. We're dealing with. Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, Brandon,
Yes.
can you pull out, you had that as a spreadsheet for us at the last meeting. Can you pull it up?
Yes.
And can you pull it up quick and check the number?
And that spreadsheet is the number that Gail is referring to.
Well, yes, I understand that, but is it wrong on the spreadsheet?
No.
Okay, so, all right, so the spreadsheet is right from back then.
Okay, that's good. So the spreadsheet 696672?
It did.
Okay, so just the numbers got reversed in the minutes. Okay, that's different than adding the $270. So the minutes can be amended to be corrected. I'd like an amendment to the minutes that reflect that was in the account that you're talking about, Mike and Brandon, that the regular account. So it was just a misprint, and they reversed the 6 and the 9 in the amount of money.
Yes.
Okay. Mike, since you made the motion on this, can you make the motion to amend that, to correct that?
So moved.
I'll
Is
second
there a
it.
second?
Hold on. Excuse me, I've lost my place. You had a motion to accept the minutes, and then you had a request to correct the minutes. And now we've got another motion,
Yeah.
so I'm not sure where we're at. Is there a motion to accept the minutes with a correction? Or are you making two separate motions?
No, because my experience in the motion world and Robert's rules, it would be that an amendment to a motion supersedes, so we take a vote on the amendment, and then we take a vote on the motion itself, which would be to pass the minute. So there's an amendment vote on the floor.
So this is a second motion,
Yep.
and what is it to
Yep.
do?
To amend the motion to accept the minutes. So we're going to have a correction made in the dollar amount in the account dealing with Parks and Rec.
So the motion is
to
to amend
reflect
the
the-
motion to accept the minutes.
Yes, to amend it, yep. And then specifically, the amendment deals with the transfer of funds to the Parks and Rec reserve account. The original minutes reflected 669672, and the correct amount, which was on the ledger that was given to us in the meeting, of 696672. Does everybody understand the motion of the amendment? I think we do. I think it's just a correction of the dollar amount.
Yeah, Dave, if it's just a correction of the dollar amount in the minutes,
Yeah.
then that's all we need to do is correct it in the minutes. But we're still making the assumption from the minutes, because that's the record of the meeting, we're making the assumption that the motion was stated correctly. It may have even made the motion.
We need to
Yeah, but
check.
Brandon just confirmed that by saying that he answered the question that you asked him, which was, what
No,
was
Brandon-
in that number?
Dave, Brandon confirmed that the spreadsheet was correct. He did not confirm that the words that came, I'm gonna assume that I made that motion, okay? Just for the discussion.
You did.
Okay.
No, I'm reading the minutes, you did.
Okay, so if I got dyslexic for a minute and changed the order of the numbers, then the motion that I made would have been wrong. But we don't know that right now. We're assuming, we know that the spreadsheet was right, and we know the amount that needs to go over there, but was the motion made correctly?
You have to look in the minutes.
Could we
Video.
watch the video and confirm it and just postpone this to the next meeting?
I think that's what you need to do.
Right, I would agree with that.
So I make a motion, we table these minutes and the motions we already made until the next meeting.
And Brandon, how does that affect the transfer? Is that stuff already happened or what?
We can wait 2 more weeks.
Okay. Okay, good.
Motion been made, is there a second to the table?
Not
I'll
yet.
second.
Okay, motion been made and seconded to table the minutes until, October 18th. All those in favor say aye. Well, I'll take a roll call on any vote. Roll call on any vote. Paul?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
And myself would be yes. Joey, as I said before, is not attending. So the motion for the minutes is tabled until the second meeting in October. Let's go to town manager update. Brandon, you're up.
I am gonna give my town manager update at the next meeting.
Okay. Nice. There's the next item on the agenda is the highway transfer of funds. So if you look down from the last meeting, we needed to do, for clarification, I need to have a motion that says this, to transfer $50,000 from highway fund surplus dated June 30th, 2021, to the highway capital maintenance and improvements reserve account. Can someone make that motion, please? Is there a second?
I didn't hear first.
I made the motion.
Okay.
Okay, Mike, is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, Kelly second. Motion been made, seconded to transfer $50,000 from the fiscal year 2021 highway surplus, and that's dated on June 30th, over to highway capital maintenance and improvements. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, another roll call vote. Paul?
Yes.
Mike?
Aye.
Kelly?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Thank you. I gotta take these roll call votes that Brandon, told me, and we talked earlier about any vote, just can't be like a group. They need to be identified, so that's why. Next up is the Budget Advisory Committee orientation. I'm hopeful that some or maybe all of the Budget Committee is there, although I didn't take their names. Can you go on with this, Brandon?
By the way,
Yes.
Dave, Barb is here from the budget committee. Oops.
Okay.
All right, so from the budget committee, we have Barb, Nicole, Chauncey, and Natalia. I talked to Everett earlier today, and he's unable to make it to this meeting, but we'll update him after the meeting. So the select board appointed these 5 members of the budget advisory committee this year. I think when I was talking to you earlier, Dave, you were unsure that these members were appointed, correct?
Yeah, well, I just didn't know the date.
Okay,
Yep.
let me see here.
But you clarified that.
I didn't
think you
remember
looked it
either, so.
Okay. Yes, so the budget committee, you guys appointed them. Anyways, I'll update, I'll send an email with the agenda that you guys appointed the members in, but they are appointed.
up. Okay. So from these words, they held the first meeting, and I'll let you take it. Go ahead, Brandon.
Yep, so the budget committee held their first meeting, they reorganized. Everett Bingham is the chair, and Chauncey Tillman is the clerk, and Barb is the vice chair. And according to the policy the select board adopted, we need to hold an orientation meeting for the budget advisory committee tonight. Let me see here. Sorry, I'm looking for my packet. There it is. So the purpose of the orientation is to provide general introductions, review and define the role of the board, the committee, and the town manager, discuss the town's goals and needs, and to describe the budget process and a general timetable. So the way that we were looking at it in our first meeting last week is the budget committee would be able to meet 3 times before town meeting. Once in October, once in November, and once in December. Or excuse me, before the select board starts going into the budget process.
So you're meeting 3 times before we start the process? Is that what I heard? Or 3 times between now and town meeting?
3 times before the select board goes through the process. You guys generally start in December, right? Or is it November?
Yeah, I think we're gonna start. Yeah. Well, I like to look at things backwards, naturally.
Yeah.
So the last possible decisions, and sometimes of any year, and it ends on June 30th of any year, so it doesn't follow a calendar year. And what are you asking me to assemble? Is it you have no money and you're starting from zero, or you have a deficit, or do you have a surplus?
Barb has her hand up, or had her hand up.
Okay, Barb, go ahead.
Yeah, so I know, working at school, our open enrollment for insurance is from October 15th to November 15th.
Okay, good. I think the schools carry, though, in fact, I know it's Blue Cross.
Correct.
So I think the town with MVP, not that that matters, but they're different companies. So I'm perfectly open to talk about healthcare any way anybody wants to talk about it. The town has an obligation to look out for the town, and we want to give them the best healthcare we can do, but maybe the plan is not working, or it is working. We need to know about it, but we also need to be recognizing the cost, and that's the way this is. It's just a matter of fact, and maybe there's a better plan. I don't know. And we all know one thing: something will change that we need to make a decision on. So, is there anything that you want to add to what I just said, Brandon? Because I don't know what the board wants to do with the surpluses. I know that you've been busy assembling what they might or might not be, and I know we haven't audited yet, but
Yeah.
we have a general idea that the numbers are going to go to the auditors, and you've checked and double checked 100 times. I know you have, and so you have a general idea. It's already October, and the year end was 6/30. So we can start that discussion at our next meeting when we have a little bit more together.
Are there any specific parts of the budget that the select board wants the budget advisory committee to target?
My question out of the gate would be, Brandon, have you created the budget yet?
No.
Okay, I believe that's the start point. The Budget Advisory Committee is, as the name implies, an advisory committee. The budget, I think, by job description comes from you. And you can work with them to assemble that, and then it comes to us or whatever. We can all work together on it, but it's your budget.
My answer to your question, Brandon, is in two components. First would be the annual operating cost, either associated with the breakdown of the general fund, which would mean the annual operating costs of police, highway, not highway yet. The general fund, which would be police, fire, the town office themselves, meaning town clerk, listers, so forth. The breakdown of that, just if anybody's here from the budget committee, this is what the general fund is completely separate from the highway fund. And then we do move on to the annual operating cost of the highway, which is the labor and the dollar amounts required to maintain the roads for a year, for 365 days. Now, added to that is another component. In both cases, what are the capital needs of the general fund, meaning, do we need a police car? Do we need a fire truck? Do we need something that's going to be longer term rather than annual? And the same is true with highway. So it's a breakdown of annual operating costs and then a capital purchase plan where we're at on a schedule, hopefully. I don't know what's up either. I have no idea. I haven't seen one yet that to see what we may or may not want to consider. So that would be my response to your, question about what does the board what do you think about assembling that?
That was well said, Dave. That was organized as well. Don't forget the fire departments.
Yeah, I did. I said fire because each one of them are on two cases: the annual cost and then the capital equipment need.
Yep.
and we're gonna get onto that on the next discussion. I apparently, I'm on the fire truck, so that's the next item on the agenda. So,
Yeah, and then just a real quick explanation of the third budget that we have, which is the enterprise fund for the solid wood stuff.
yeah.
And whether or not you're getting into anything there. Yeah.
Well, no, it's good that you mentioned that because that too has a equipment component of that because I know that Ray is, and I don't know if Ray Stapleton is on tonight. I know he said he was not going to go to the meeting, but he could be linked on here. The same is true with the solid waste where we had been, I think there's a little money in a fund to set aside for a compactor. So there's some machinery at that site as well, other than annual operating.
Mm-hmm.
Brandon, I think you need to gather up some of this information or get the department heads to do it for you. So you need to pick or go over and see whether what police, and I know we're going to hear a little bit about what fire wants to do with a capital improvement, and then Ray and Highway about what they may, and I don't mean to create a wish list. I want it to be a lot simpler than that and say, do we need a dump truck, for instance, or do we need a half a police cruiser, or what do we need in the schedule for the capital purchase plan?
Okay, sounds good.
Yep. Is there any other questions about how the budget gets put together? Is there any from either the budget committee or the board? And don't be bashful, jump right in because I'm on the phone. So if somebody wants to say something, now's the time.
Well, just so you know, Dave, just so you know that we're gonna meet with all of the department heads anyway, and figure it out from there.
Yep, you can. And, we always use, in the past, we haven't had this many members on the budget committee, but the budget committee is a check and balance on us. And usually they're not too bashful. I know I wasn't about saying something whether you wanted it or not. And there have been times when the budget committee has opposed a board on a particular item, and then you air out your differences. It's not a bad thing. Is there any other comments about the budget process or about what we either want to do, or we can move on? I know the next meeting or two, we're going to be talking about outlining stuff, or we kind of just did about what we want Brandon to start assembling. But it was good information that we got out on the healthcare. So I would suspect that by a month that we'll be talking about the plans that are offered to the town, at least for healthcare, and get on to that discussion. Okay, let's move on to the Scotney Fire Tanker discussion. Why don't I start with Brandon and then I can move to Darren. I know that he's there in our packet tonight. There was a note that's outlining what that says. Why don't I start with you, Brandon? Go ahead.
So Chief Darren Spalding and I met and reviewed this RFP. Excuse me, not RFP, the cost estimate for the proposed new tanker. The existing truck is 27 years old, and what Chief Spalding and the Scotney Volunteer Fire Association is proposing is to change over to a tanker, a 2,500 gallon tanker. The cost estimate for this truck is $360,000, and I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to Chief Spalding, who knows a lot more about this.
Okay, Darren, are you there? Are you present at the meeting, or are you online, or where are you? Go ahead and talk.
I'm right here at the meeting. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. So, I'm gonna back up a little bit to the older truck. As Brandon mentioned, it's 27 years old. 4 years ago, we lost quite a bit of the piping that rotted off, and it cost us $6,500 to get some of it replaced. This past January, the bottom side of the pump rotted out, and Larry Dingy asked me, what would you like to do? And I said, at least cost effective as possible. So what they did was they tore a lot of the pump apart and welded in a small piece to patch it. The patch at the time, he said, is good 6 months, could be good for a year, it could be good for a year and a half. But at some point, we're either gonna have to replace the whole pump or replace the truck. So he did a $3,500 patch to get us through. We just put new springs on it back in May to get it to pass inspection. The other reason we're looking at getting a combination pumper tanker is a lot of the paid departments around us are consolidating, are getting rid of 2 trucks that usually come to our town to get to 1 truck. And we are losing roughly 2,000 gallons of water that come to a structure fire in our town. So with that being said, this combination pumper tanker, we felt, talking with Mr. Dingy, that 2,500 gallons on a twin screw international, that's what we spec'd out, trying to stay local as possible, is still, we could put up to over 3,000 gallons on it, but I thought that was too heavy for our roads and maybe too much for our firefighters that are not used to driving the trucks. And one of the savings that I came up with in the officers was we have a $7,000 light bar on the existing truck. We want to take that light bar off from the existing truck, put this on the new one if it gets accepted. Also take the siren off, because that's $2,000 to take it off the old truck, put it on the new truck, and then remove the new radio that we had installed a couple years ago, and that's $1,600. So there's roughly close to $10,000 that we would be saving. In the quote that Dingy sent us, you can see it's $360,000. One of the goals the members had was to try to keep this thing under $400,000. And there is no whistles and bells on this. It's going to have some roll-up doors so we can put our air packs on it. It's going to have a hose bed. It's going to have aluminum rims all the way around the truck for cooling of the brakes quicker than the metal. It's got a 450 horsepower, 2-door international. We're not going with a 4-door. We want to keep this truck as short as possible. And the length of the truck is going to be the size of our engine 4, which is 32 feet. And it's an all aluminum body with roll-up doors and a 10,000 Newton quick dump on the rear. And one other, there is a whistle, I guess you want to call it, but it's also a safety whistle and bell. Up on the hose bed, it's going to have a hydraulic 4-foot by 8-foot arrow stick that'll come up out of the hose bed, so when we're up on the interstate or on 131 with a big arrow on it to tell people to go left or right, NFPA is going to start requiring some of this on some of these trucks. And they've been put on some of the trucks along 89 that Larry's built, and we've put that in our spec as well.
Are there any questions by board? I mean, we're going to take this up for discussion. I'm sure this isn't the first or the last that we're going to discuss this. Is there any questions, at least in the beginning here by the board? Did anybody got any? And I'm on the phone, so I can't really see. So don't be afraid to just go ahead and then we'll just say who's talking. Is there any questions at all?
Did we look into a used?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. There was one not too far from here that they're getting a brand new tanker themselves. I've been in contact with the fire chief and the salesman, and we're a day late, dollar short. The town next door to, down here in southern New Hampshire, is gonna get the truck when their new truck is delivered. There was another one up in, I'm gonna say Thetford, Vermont, that I had, that was an 1,800 gallon tanker, that was 5 years old. That went bye-bye real quick, and that was a combination pumper tanker. Unless you, how do I say this? Unless you have the money right in your account, ready to go, some of these used trucks don't last very long. I mean, that's not to say I can continue still looking to find something for the town that'll fit our purpose. I have to have a pump, a 1250 pump, because if my main pumper goes down and we get another call, like say the nursing home here, I've got to be able to pump the water off, where strictly a tanker doesn't have a pump. It just dumps the water and just sit there and go get filled up. So that's why we want to make this a combination pumper tanker.
And what was the range? You mentioned, I think several times, up at like Thetford and whatnot. What was the range of your search? How far out did you go?
I tried to stay in New England, Mike.
Yeah.
So we're not not going out west to look at a truck where, you got to pay airfare and stuff like that. So we tried to stay in New England. I had Larry Dingy pointed me onto one of them. I'm friends with the Thetford Fire Chief, so he told me about it, but I knew that truck wouldn't stay around long. That was a beautiful truck. And they were downsizing.
What do you expect to get out of the engine?
If we got $8,000, you'd be doing good.
Are you serious?
I kid you not. Larry thought I might be on the high side of getting that, because it's a 95. And
what's wrong? Oh, well, you already told us that.
yeah.
Aaron, I got a quick question for you.
Yes, Paul.
If we go with one of these options where, it's new and you got that, what do you expect the life expectancy of this vehicle to be? When do you think we'd have to have a conversation about it again?
Oh, I'm expecting this truck to last 25 to 30 years, just because the same manufacturer built, well, I'm hoping when it goes out to bid that the same manufacturer who built it will build this one, because he's done 3 of our trucks on our side of town. And if you go look at that right now, you'd say, wow, there's nothing wrong with it. The body looks excellent shape. It is. It's like the plumbing is really starting to add up, because there's always water sitting on it, in it.
No, so it's a good investment. It's going to last a while.
Yes.
Is the tank stainless steel?
No. The tank on this truck, the new truck, the old truck.
On the new truck?
They're both both of them are poly. The one in the old truck is poly, and this one's going to be poly as well.
Oh, okay. Well, it doesn't rust anyway. That's
correct. Correct. It's your plumbing and stuff. But one thing we did spec out in here was to go all stainless steel plumbing, where the other truck didn't have that.
Well, this is one that has to go to the voters anyway.
Correct.
Yeah, but the board needs to take the consideration up for it and do its homework on it. I have some concerns about the specs, and I saw the cab chassis, and I'm glad you said something there, and that you said that it was a tandem, meaning it's a 10-wheeler. Is that correct or not?
Yeah, that's correct. To hold part of our whole process as a town, as a board, was to try to get more water on wheels, and this doubles our water capacity.
Oh, no, I don't dispute that for a minute, but here's where I'm going to go, because I'm really concerned about the price tag, of course. But
absolutely.
So the cab chassis is actually not so bad when you look at the sheets here. Or I say that, not so bad, everything is bad, but 116,000 of the total package.
Right.
It boggles my mind. It boggles my mind how you get the truck in any way, and then it costs $256,000 more money just for the tank and the pump. Now, I do it at the highway, and I won't buy a truck in good faith for the town unless it has at least 44,000 springs, and I'm seeing this one has 40. And I would advocate for a bigger tank. I know there's a lot of trucks around that'll hold 3,000 or maybe even, I know there's a lot of farm trucks that have decided to go 4,000 and 5,000 gallon tanks. If you want water, let's get water. I'm not thinking that 2,500 is enough, but that's just, and we can work that out. I don't know about everything, but if the goal is
What's the tank on an
water,
engine? I'm sorry. What's the size of the tank on the engine?
The one that we have right now is 1250, so we're more than doubling.
yeah.
You're just doubling.
Yeah, just doubling, right. But also take in consideration, we get a reported structure fire, we're gonna have, one of West Side's engine is 1800, and then their other engine's 1250, so, and then our other main run truck is 1250. So we have a lot of water on wheels coming right off, especially, you know, if you go bigger tank.
Let's look at it from a time perspective, Darren. How long does 2,500 gallons last if you're on site and you're running full tilt?
2 minutes. If you're running full tilt, it's 2 minutes. 2 minutes of water on 2,500 gallons of water. Because that's a 1250 pump.
That's a lot of pump.
That's a lot of pump. How many hoses is that, and how often do you find that scenario happening?
Not often, Mike, but if, God forbid, this place catches on fire or the church, you'd probably be using that and then some because you got 3 buildings you got to protect. So.
Well, I think that's what Dave's point is. If we need water, let's get water.
Yep.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to make the truck too. Go ahead, Dave. I'm sorry.
Well, again, we've heard this before, and I want to do the right thing. I do. But I also been involved with farm for a long time, and you got heavier springs. You can take more freight, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be water, but in this case, we're looking for water, and they do make really nice big tanks. I don't know if it has to be poly. Maybe it'll be steel, and I don't know. I just don't know. I think this is open for discussion, and it's good. One thing I would remind the board and the budget committee as well, and I know that Brandon knows this, I think in the letter document here, that the engine 7, which is the west side, the last year's payment was made, it was either last year or this year. So we do need to be aware of the schedule and to keep some money in. And the financing package of this may be also up for a little bit of discussion because it said in here, I think I read it, let me scroll back, there was 125,000 or some such a number in the reserve account for fire, and the proposal, at least tentative proposal, was to take 100,000 out. Well, that's okay, but the board needs to be aware of the future and how all these fit together. So you don't really want to, drain all these accounts down to zero because at some moment in time, we'll still be in the same boat where we have a lot of payment and then no money. So, this is on for discussion for tonight, and are there any more questions about it?
Well, yes, maybe, and even a couple points. One is, to the point you just got done making, when does the west side come up for their next truck? Because they would be next on the schedule. What is the date for that? And I don't know if anybody knows that right now. And then the other question would be, when I buy gravel or SurePack or whatever from St. Pierre, I'm told by them that there's a certain tonnage limit that you can put on the highway. Now, and I know Darren is concerned about our roads, but what would the limit be, do you think, Darren? I mean, I'm not sure 2,500 is the limit, I'm not sure 6,000 gallons is the limit. What do you think would be is 25 it? Is that really as high as you think we should go?
Well, here's what we have to take in consideration. I can't build a bigger truck that'll fit inside our station where we have another truck sitting behind it. You know what I'm saying? Because engine 4, which is 32 feet, there's just enough room for two, I think there's 3 feet between my two trucks. The ladder and the forestry can't fit behind each other. So we figured with a 2500, that gives us a real good start on anything with mutual aid coming in and making it fit in the barn.
I heard a bigger station, Darren.
You stole the words right out of my mouth.
It's a good meeting, Darren.
West Weathersfield's due for replacement of their engine 1 in FY '28.
Okay,
That's the next truck up on the list.
okay.
Well, we did, Brandon, just so the board knows, Brandon and I were over on the west side a week ago, and Josh told us, I think it was the mini pumper, one of the little small one-ton units was the oldest in the fleet. But he said it was in very good shape, and it's frankly one of the ones that they use the most. Now, this is just a philosophical thing as far as I'm concerned. When you raise that issue, Mike, about weight, emergency vehicles are exempt from weight because that's what you're going to an emergency. That you're not out just riding around on the road causing damage. So
Well,
that's point one.
And I wondered that, but we do have a lot of back roads and bridges and stuff like that, and we need to be able to do those things without damaging them.
Yeah, no, but here's where I was going. So we did do a study on all the fire departments with the former fire chief, I think it was a Putney or something, John Wood. But I disagreed with one of the things that he, philosophically, what he did was he said that we got to get rid of the littler trucks, and then we didn't need so many pumpers, that we did need water, so this tanker was somewhere in his thoughts. But where I go with all of this is, put yourself in the shoes of a volunteer. You have cars and trucks and things like that at your house, and you're used to driving them. And then you factor in, okay, what does the fire department, I want to be a volunteer, I want to help. So what does the fire department have for these things to drive in a hurry, and you're under the gun to respond to a scene? And also bear in mind that 95% of the calls are ambulance or some kind of rescue related. So my whole thought has been geared towards these, at least one or two of these one-ton units that are very nimble, most associated with a person's car or truck, so they're easier to drive for them, but also capable of handling whatever equipment that they need to go do whatever the call said. So when we went over to the west side looking at that, they have two of them that seem to be pretty nimble. I think, Dan, I think you might have two of them, but I like the idea not only of water, but being able to be, we're never going to and should never get out of the volunteerism that's happened to respond to both fire departments have changed with the calls. I really think we need to wrap around our long-term thinking to that and then have that discussion too. But is there any other comments that someone wants to make about this tanker tonight fire? Go ahead.
I do quick, just as a follow-up to what you were talking about, Darren, out of your trucks, and I don't know if you know about West Weathersfield, but how many of them need a CDL license to drive?
None of them.
None of them?
Volunteer firefighters in Vermont are exempt.
Okay, so they can drive what they want.
Correct.
Okay. What do you have for training for anybody? Or you just kind of take them in a parking lot and let them try it, or?
Well, we do that on our own through the state, but 95% of our firefighters that drive have taken the state certified defensive driving class.
Okay.
Once this whole COVID stuff blows over, we would like to have another one because we have some new people coming up through.
Yeah. No, I agree with Dave. Like, I'd be, honestly, Darren, you wouldn't want me in one of those trucks. I'd take me forever to get there where I'm going. So, but then again, you might have some people that are very qualified and capable of some of the larger stuff too. So we need to kind of figure that out.
It'd be fun to watch you.
No, you don't want me driving one. You don't want me in the backhoe either, so we're good.
Darren, I'd just like you to look into what would and maybe you already have, what is the maximum size you could go gallons wise with your station? Is 2,500 it, or can you go a little higher?
Well, we'd have to have an engineer come in and look at our concrete. You know, what they put in the floor 20 years ago. Because where the ladder parks, the concrete's breaking up, you know? I mean, that's heavy. I guess there is a truck that this is mirrored after. It's being built over to Dingy's. It's Grantham, New Hampshire. I will call Larry, not Grantham, I'm sorry, Croydon, New Hampshire. I will call Larry and ask him what he thinks how much this thing's going to weigh, so we can kind of get an idea. Because our ladder's 51,000 or 57,000, 53, something like that. It's on the, I'll call it 53,000. So.
Okay. All right. Good.
Okay, are there any other questions about the truck? I'm sure we can put this back on if we get any more information or get talking about it. And like I said, I don't know how we're gonna, whether we put this on as a separate article. I would assume so, because it's a larger amount of money for if we get into a final proposal mode. Any other questions about fire?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so just curious, the used fire trucks you saw, what was the price range on those?
The used ones are anywhere between 120 to 230,000.
Depending on,
Depending upon, and you're buying, you could be buying something that age is anywhere between 15 to 20 years old. So.
And would you be comfortable with the
There are
used
some.
one?
There was some that
Would you be
were,
happy with the used one? Yeah.
we buy used ladder trucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we could find the one that's not gonna be a money pit.
Yeah.
And the reason I knew these two that were local is because I know the two chiefs, so, but we were late on the one south of us and late on that one up there, so. Good trucks don't last long in the market.
Darren, there was a neighbor of mine. He was chief of the station in Bridgeport, Connecticut, but they happened to sell their house and they moved to Florida, but I'm still in contact with him. But he told me, and I'm sure that it's true, I mean, that there are a lot particularly down in the cities, they have like no mileage, and they do have both pumpers and tankers that are leased, and they do turn them over every 3 or 4 years. So I could reach out for an email to Frank and just say, what do you know about this or that? I mean, talking is cheap. And you may find out something, it may not, I don't know. But I know that other big communities sometimes rent things and they're not all used up. So I don't know if that might help or not, I don't know.
Well, no, and I appreciate that. I did check with Pierce, because they do a lease program and demo, and E1 also has demos, and they said their demos are all spoken for the next 2 years, because it's just the way it is right now.
Yeah. Are there any more questions about? If anybody has any information, they can just forward it to Brandon or Darren or both, and any ideas are open. This isn't about one lane. We're just going to do all the homework we can, do the best job we can, and fit it together with the unit that we have. If there's no other comments, we can move on to Parks and Rec. I'll turn it over to Brandon. It's something to do with policy.
Yeah, so Olivia found the 2002 Parks and Recreation policy. And in that policy, there's just a couple of minor changes that I'd like to, or I'd like the select board to consider. The first is the policy explicitly states a meeting date and time. And I'd like to see that be more flexible for the Parks and Recreation Commission because different people have different schedules. So if we say it's the second Wednesday of each month at 6:30, it doesn't allow for much flexibility. So I think they should be able to set their own meeting date and time at their first meeting of the year after appointment. The second change that we're proposing is back when this policy was written, the town treasurer had a much larger role in finance, but now the accountant does the duties and responsibilities outlined in the Parks and Recreation Commission policy. So we're just changing town treasurer to accountant, or proposing to change. The third is the financial section of the policy and bylaws require select board approval for all expenses. So if the Parks and Recreation Commission wants to, let's say, purchase candy for a trunk or treat, I can't approve that expense. So you actually have to put it on the agenda, consider a vote to purchase whatever they're looking to purchase. So I think we should update it to agree with the purchasing policy. And then the fourth is the bylaws and policy contradicted each other regarding the commission's organization. So the policy limits the membership of the commission to 7 members, and the bylaws states there is no limit. So we're just looking to change that to 7 members for both the bylaws and in the policy so they agree with each other.
Have you run this by the treasurer?
Yes. And
Okay.
he fully agrees.
Yeah, so as long as it holds to the purchasing policy, though they have dollar thresholds and lots of language about buying things, they'll be no different. The recreation committee would be no different than any other group in town, whether it's highway or anybody spending any money, police or anything, correct?
Yes.
Okay, good. Are there any questions about this? Now, so help me out. I don't think we can vote on this tonight. The changes need to be warned for 3 meetings, right? This is a policy change?
Yes, this would be considered the first reading, and then we'd have 2 more readings.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, we don't make the motion anyway? And just.
No, I think at the last meeting.
Okay.
Because these 2 more meetings allow opportunity for change.
Yep.
Yep.
Hey,
If Brandon, you or Olivia could write this down, because I think it's really important to keep it on for the next meeting and the meeting following that, so that we don't lose this because if this is the first one, they need to be linked together.
hey, Brandon, there's more than 7 people on the Parks and Recreation right now, so can you have it like a larger number, or maybe like not have a limit of the amount of people that want to volunteer on Parks and Recreation?
Yes, it's totally up to the board. Do you want unlimited seats, or do you want 7 seats or 9 seats? What do you all want to do here?
Can there be like a breakdown of this? So how many people are on there now?
Either 8 or 9.
All appointed?
Yes.
Because
Go ahead.
the bylaws state that there's no limit to the number of members that can be on the commission, but the policy states seven members maximum.
Yeah, I see that. And they're appointed annually, so it's like every year, so they're not I don't know if they were aware of that, but it's not a lifetime appointment.
Yep.
Well, I don't know what the rest of the board feels, but this committee, well, they do have a lot of money in their reserve account right now. So what would happen is they would have the ability, right, to spend that money as they see fit. I mean, this hasn't always happened. I think we were told by the treasurer.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
They do have money in the reserve account, but it would still need to follow the purchasing policy. So different thresholds would require, different procedures.
But did you just tell me that they would simply have to have a vote and then go through the finance director to get authority, or does it come to our table to say, or yours, to give final approval?
So it would come to me for approval if it's a number that I can approve. If it exceeds that number, then it comes to the select board for approval. I was really
what that number is?
10,000. What was it? It's $10,000.
Okay.
10,000, really?
Yep.
I thought it was 3.
3,000 for approving purchases?
Well, that's just the number I remember for purchase policy in the past. For the town, or for the town manager to authorize, it was, I don't know, maybe I'm confusing policies.
Well, Mike,
I think there's
only-
a difference.
they only have
There's a difference.
Oh,
Okay, go ahead. Well, I
they
think
only
there's a difference between, go ahead. Sorry.
You go first, Dave. I'll go second.
Well, I think there's a difference between taking money out of reserve accounts and then having an annual account.
Yes,
I think taking money out of the reserve accounts in any case has to come from the select board.
and that's exactly what I was going to say. Actually, they only have $1,500 in their account to spend annually, but then anything that comes out of reserves requires a select board vote. So I can't authorize any reserves to be spent.
Okay,
so
then I'm okay with all what you just said. I'm okay with it because if there's
Me too. I am too.
Yeah.
I just.
What we were looking for is, for example, they want to purchase candy for a trunk or treat. And per the policy, we were looking to see if we can get it approved in time for Halloween. And then that's kind of like what sparked changing the policy.
Okay, but I want to back up just a little bit if we can, Mr. Chairman. The question was about the membership and the numbers, and we kind of got sidetracked.
yes.
Now, when I stop and I think about the boards that I'm on, the planning commission, the select board, I've been on other committees, the town manager search committee, school committee. The more members that you have, the more opinions you have. But it also can kind of string the issues along. I mean, sometimes we have really long discussions about stuff that you'd think would be really simple, and it's just 5 of us trying to get our heads together. You got 9, 10, 11 people trying to get their heads together and wrap around. So I mean, maybe it's a lot easier where it's just Parks and Recs and they're focusing on that and it's not an issue. I guess to me, the 7 number doesn't sound bad to me. I hate to hurt anybody's feelings that's there, but that doesn't mean they can't participate at the meetings.
One thing that I know the one thing that I know here through this is they've done a really, really tremendous job at different sites and locations in town. And I welcome it hasn't been clouded with finances. It's been embraced into work and everything. Like when you look down here to the Perkinsville, the former building down there, I know they were involved there. I know they're involved in different other things in town that have to do with grounds and the recreation. I know they were over at the town forest for a while, or looking at trails, or doing something differently. So I don't think it's that embroiled in politics.
And I'm on the Parks and Recreation Committee, and honestly, it's been nice having a lot, like, more people on it, because when there's volunteer opportunities, like on the weekends, you know, to have 3 or 4 people show up, you know, when there's more people to pick from, or that, like, their schedules are free, it's nice having more people, because, you know, people are really busy. So if we could get 3 or 4, and we're trying to schedule some bigger events, and we need bodies for that. So when people feel involved, especially when it's like a recreational situation, at least when the meetings I'm going to, and I've been going to them for about a year, it's not a lot of arguing. It's more just collaborating of ideas, and usually with ideas, it's more the merrier. I don't know. Of course, up to you guys. Just that's my opinion, because I go to the meetings.
The only thing that I'll come back to is the check and balance that Brandon just said. If they have an annual amount of money, I don't have a problem with leaving it open-ended with the amount of people that want to stick their hand up and be volunteers on this commission with the Parks and Rec. This is a lot different than the zoning board or the planning board.
And that makes sense too, Dave, because the next thing that popped into my head was, okay, then what do we set the number at? We set it at 12, and then 2 years from now it's 20, or what? Just leave it open-ended.
I don't know. We've never had this happen before, where there's been so many people that want to be on a committee. Normally, it's the other way around. There's nobody.
Yeah, no, and so I agree. That's great. So just leave it open-ended then.
I think so for now. Let's try it that way. Brandon spelled out the most important thing, which was if they wanted to bring forward a proposal for 10 or 20,000, it would be a collective effort between them, and then a proposal put before either him or us or both of us, and have a voters vote on it.
Yes.
Whereas I'm fine leaving it open for now.
Well, but that still requires a change within, you know, what Brandon brought forward, because the two disagree right now. So you, instead of taking it simple, which he recommended, you got to go the other way. Just leave it open.
Yeah.
So change the document.
Yeah.
Right?
Do Paul or Kelly, do you have any opinion on this?
No, I'm good. Just,
okay.
I'd leave it open.
I'd leave it open. Well, more the better.
Yep.
Yeah. Good. Okay, any other comments about that? Anything left on that to the side, Brandon? I mean, you kind of wrapped it up.
Nope,
that's okay.
it.
The first reading? Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Good. Martin Memorial Hall repairs. Brandon and I have been close on this, and I and he, both of us, have sent off emails to the board notifying of what's happened, and we were denied an insurance claim to cover the repair, and then he's got a list of what's in the reserve account. I'll let you take it here in a second, Brandon. We did get an estimate to do some cleaning and everything, but not really, not a replacement cost, at least that I know of yet. So in a nutshell, it's our job to fix this problem. And my fear is that we are under a schedule to try to vote in March, and the legislature has again voted to give out all the ballots for every single person in town by mail. So we need to be prepared for in voting, and the school, I don't know that we have a really good solution to this other than I asked Brandon to at least get ready to ship out an RFP, and I gave him the authority to do it, and he called a couple of people. Because what we did before just didn't work. We put out an informative question asking contractors to come in, and nobody came. So, Brandon, why don't you take up the two, I see you've got two here that gave us quotes on to do some work, and maybe you've got more information.
Yep. So like Dave was saying, our insurance claim was denied, and they cited property coverage exclusions on page 19 of our coverage policy. Loss or damage from water seepage into building foundations is not covered. So we had CK Cleaning Services, our Kingdom Cleaners in Claremont come down, and that's basically to take care of the issues we're having on that wall with the carpet on it. And Haley's is coming down tomorrow to give us an estimate for the floors. So we'll have a better idea of where we stand at the next meeting.
Okay, what either Kelly or Paul or Mike, what do you think? Because I just want your opinion, and I want to move or give Brandon the authority to move if he has to. I think this is important, and I don't really want to call a special meeting. I think we got an education here about cleaning and everything. The walls was about $5,000, which was well under his authority to make the move on his own. But I want everybody to be aware of what's going on. That's not the floor, but it appears as though there's going to be a couple of tasks here to take care of things. Do you guys have any comments?
My only comment, Brandon, was just, I have no problem with Brandon spending the money to do what he needs to do there. I feel it's needed. I just want to make sure that whatever company we have come in or places to do the work, just check some references and make sure.
I agree.
We had some big issues with some other work, not necessarily in the building there, but so I would just check some references and make sure. But yeah, I'd love him to do what he needs to do.
We're time sensitive. That's my point. You know, obviously with voting in March. Go ahead, Mike.
I don't want to spend $5,000 next spring to clean it up again. Are we going to know what's causing this, and what is it getting fixed or what?
I know that Joey raised the same issue with the drainage from the roof water runoff, so I don't know the answer to that. I do, I think all of us do understand that this has been a kind of a record rain year, but that's not to dismiss the fact that it's running down the side of the building and coming into the foundation. I think that would require some engineering to tell us that we're going to need some curtain drains or gutters, one or the other.
But you see my point. I don't want to keep going every year or every other year.
Yeah.
It just keeps adding to the final cost.
Yeah.
I want to fix it and clean it up.
And also, Dave, where are we taking the $5,000 from to do that work?
Coming out of your check.
Okay.
Okay.
I actually heard an agreement there. I heard it okay. It's not just going to be 5,000. That's where I was going, because you're going to get another estimate here on the flooring. There's going to be a tearing out, and then we're going to find out whether there's vinyl floor on cement underneath, or how that's going to work. It's not just going to be $5,000.
Are the funds in the Martin Memorial Hall reserve accounts?
Yes. One has 50,000, 141.27, the other one has 20,000, 276.59.
And which
And then
one of
there's
the
another-
accounts is, which one of the accounts is for repairs and maintenance on the building?
Well, one of them says capital improvement, so that's 20,000. The other one just says Martin Memorial Hall Reserve Account at 50. I personally would, and I don't have a problem spending it out of, I guess either one of those, if we needed a firm definition, we could ask either Steve Heyer or clarification, or Gail, she could read it, or maybe if we had to, we could go to Nate Stearns. I don't think so, but we do have the rainy day fund. We have a problem here, and we need to fix it. I don't think we need to go to the voters for approval. I think it's our job.
So where do you want it from, Dave? You want it from the $50,000 account, or you want it from the rainy day fund?
Well, let's get a definition of the reserve account to make sure that it's not for future, some sort of like a roof or something. Maybe, and I heard one of you said it before at a previous meeting, to make sure that we include the Martin Hall trustees. I think there are 3 members of that, to make sure that they don't happen to have something on their radar that they were going to use some funds for. If this doesn't fit the rainy day fund, I don't know what does, the description of it, so.
You want a motion to take it from there?
Well, no, let's find out what the proposals are first. Okay, that's fair enough, and then.
So there's no crunch on this bit?
Well, there is and there isn't, but we gotta give it a little bit of time here to find out what we're talking about for money.
Okay.
Yep. And maybe, I hope, if Brandon drafted even a small RFP, that we might have some more interest in contractors, particularly with putting down a new floor. The only holdup is we want them really done and out of there by, let's say, February 1st, and then we have room to make sure that we're voting. And then we can give them a couple of weeks, just in case something bad happened, they couldn't get material. Brandon, do you have anything else to add on this, or no?
I don't. I think after Haley's comes tomorrow, we'll have a good idea what the scope of work looks like.
Yep, that'd be great. Exactly. Proposed future agenda, we're gonna be talking about, it'll be the Parks and Rec then going into a second reading.
Yes.
And the budget committee is all on its own. I'm sure something's gonna be happening with, at least the beginning, now that we heard that the open enrollment for Blue Cross was open. I think Barb said that for now it's coming up on a month. So we may have a little information, or we can ask about what is in the world of MVP and Blue Cross right now. So we'll start that discussion too. And then I don't want to lose sight of the fire, maybe we'll have more information about the tanker. Things always come up, and Brandon informs me, it'll be 2 weeks, so I'm sure there's something else to come up to the agenda. Let's go to warrants. I need a motion to pass the warrants of October 4th, 2021.
I don't have them open, so I don't see them.
They're at the very end.
I know, but I don't even have it open. I need another computer to do that.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Right, I'll make a motion that we approve the warrants, October 4th, 2021, for general fund payroll, $15,855.86. Operating expenses, $19,389.10. Highway fund, payroll, I just lost it all. Payroll, $6,655.29. Operating expenses, $7,833.68. Solid waste, Payroll is $1,536.67. And operating expenses looks like $203.37. Library payroll is $1,997.25 and no operating expense. There's a highway grant under operating expense for $7,371.20. For grand totals for payroll is $26,085.07, and for operating expenses, grand total is $34,797.35.
DeForest has her hand up.
Paul, could you repeat the general fund payroll number again?
Sure, yep, general fund payroll looks like $15,885.86.
Thank you.
Second,
The motion's been made. DeForest, did you get those numbers correctly?
I did. There was a misreading of the general fund payroll, and I just asked Mr. Tillman to confirm it, and he read it correctly the second time.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
I actually expanded it so I could see it without my glasses. Thank you for catching me.
No worries.
And I thought I got that too, and there might have been another one in the highway, but at least you got the total right.
Yeah, sorry.
I know. I had to push plus too. The motion's been made and seconded to approve the warrants dated October 4th, 2021. Is there any discussion? I gotta ask if by single though, I'm at a disadvantage here on the phone, so I want to leave enough time to, if anybody wants to ask anything.
Just on the highway, just DeForest, can you just make sure payroll was $6,665.29.
That's what I have.
Okay, and then operating was $7,833.68.
I have that as well.
Okay, good. No, I just really expanded it. Now I can really see the numbers. Thank you.
My only comment was for these warrants, Brandon, you and I have had a discussion about some issues within this warrant, and I'm reserving the right to go over that with you and the board at our next meeting. Having said that, these are on the warrant, these are on the table for a motion, but that's my comment, and I want that recorded in the minutes.
Could you repeat your comment? I'm not sure I understood what you just said.
Me either.
Okay. Well, there were some questions that I had for Brandon on a couple of issues on the warrant, and I think that it's going to be passed, but I think they need clarification, and we're going to take that up at a later date. So
I can provide the clarification tonight if necessary.
not necessary for me.
Okay.
I'm just curious of what specifically you had issues with.
That's very cryptic.
There were a couple of things on payroll. I think they can be clarified. It had to do with procedure.
And I do agree with the procedure. I do agree with that.
All right, so just a question for the chair. Will there be an agenda item for next meeting to talk about whatever this is going to be?
Yeah, it's got to do with hourly payroll and whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No, I'm okay with it then. Thank you.
Yep. Is there any other discussion on the motion? Motion made and seconded to approve the warrants dated October 4th, 2021. Again, we're going to take a roll call. Mike, start with you.
aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Okay, me. I'm abstaining.
On what grounds?
I don't know, because I don't feel like I should be voting yes or no. That's the way that you abstain.
Well, I know we just voted, but I just, as a quick question, Dave, I'm sorry, I don't know, and I don't need to keep asking the question, but Was there something we should have been looking at maybe to make and not? I mean, are you comfortable with the knowledge you have that we're passing this warrant?
Yes, I was just a little upset about the way some of the payroll was assembled. That's all. I
don't want to approve something not knowing all the information and maybe approving something that's not right is what I'm getting at. And I don't feel I have all the right information, especially with you abstaining like that. So that's all.
Yeah, well, I guess I'll redo that. I'll say yes, but I'm concerned about the way hours are kept and the way it was formulated under this particular payroll.
No, and that's good. It's
nothing to do with, and just for clarification, on all of our warrants, I hope everybody knows this.
Yep.
Payroll goes out. Okay, they're done by direct deposit. It was done last Friday. It's done weekly. So there's nothing that I could do right now or you could do as board members. Vendors, on the other hand, are the only ones that are held until we actually approve them. So anything taken up on the payroll would be retroactive to the decisions that were already made. So, including for everybody, either hourly or salary employees or anybody that's on the payroll for the town, including us as board members. So,
I didn't know that. That's good to know.
Yep, so we consider others like, what are we doing? But the vendors are the only ones where the checks are held.
I think something like that should be brought up in advance before we approve it, so that we can have a chance to see what the problem is.
What's that for? Oh, for any issue maybe in payroll?
Yeah.
Uh-oh, my phone was acting up.
It's Kelly's internet connection, I think.
Okay. Oh, so you got a lot of feedback too?
She's frozen on our screen.
Yeah, she's frozen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the only thing though that board members and she's back?
Yeah.
She's back. The only thing that can be corrected in payroll when any item comes up for that is after the fact. You don't get to cut them off before. It doesn't matter what you're talking about. So we can have a discussion about what's going on, but it always happens the same way on payroll. It doesn't happen on vendors because, like I said, Steve Meyer and what's that?
I gotcha.
Yep. But no, I wanted Kelly to understand too, because she was the one that had a question about wanting to know before. It never seems to happen that way with payroll issues. You can take them up after, but you can't, it's very rare that things happen before.
Okay, next meeting.
Yep, exactly. Is there anything else? No, there's nothing else. Any other business? Any board member, anybody have any other business?
No, sir.
Oh,
Okay.
Motion.
Yeah, go ahead.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
I was leaving that door open for you. I hope you heal quickly and heal well. Everybody stay safe out there.
Yeah.
I hope you're okay. So we'll take a roll call vote on adjourn. Mike Tosh.
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
and me, yes. Okay. Thank you very much. Brandon, I'll see you.
Yeah, sounds good. You guys have a good night.
Okay, thanks.
Good night, Brad.